Good morning to everybody. So today we have a very special guest lecture today. We have a guest, Vikas Pawar from Rethinking the Future. He is the co-founder, no, not the co-founder, he is the founder of Rethinking the Future. And he started it as a blog in 2012. And we were in the same college. I was in the final year and he was in the first year. I think we never met in the college. So we got to know each other through Facebook. He's an SPA pass out of 2012 batch. But seeing his journey has been very, very incredible, that how a simple blog transformed into a website which we now refer to. I recommend it to students, and when I am doing my personal research, it comes on the top in the Google search. So we welcome Vikas to join us, who has joined us today. And I will not detail out all he has achieved in the introduction, because we would want to hear from his story and his journey of how he has done it. I would now like to invite Director Sir Vivek Sabharwal, who would also like to welcome Vikas today at APJ.
Thank you, Vani. Welcome, Architect Vikas. We're so happy to have you here for this special session, so relevant for not only for the students but even for architects. And we all need to realize that in architecture, it is not just enough to be imagining things. Of course, we are, as architects, are known to be creative thinkers and someone who's very good in graphically representing their ideas and presenting it to the clients. But so often, the young professionals falter in expressing the ideas through writing. They may be articulate in expressing through visual media. They may be good at, I won't use the word selling, but, presenting the ideas to people. But when it comes to writing, there's some kind of an inertia, and they're not able to overcome that inertia. So I am hoping that through today's dialogue with Vikas, where he can, help students overcome the inertia, because each one of us students have a potential for writing, but somehow, they hesitate to write. Maybe because they are not reading as much, they're not aware of what is going on. Somehow it doesn't translate into writing, and they hesitate to write. And writing is something not new. Architects, they were architecture critics who were not architects, but used to write. That power of expression was tremendous. Even I have followed writings of Frank Lloyd Wright, who was not only a great designer but very good writer. So how you can connect to people through your writing, it has a great impact. So I'm sure today's deliberation will help students overcome that inertia. And we would love to hear Vikas' journey. And through his journey, I'm sure he will inspire many of the students and young professionals today. So as people are still trickling in, we hope to have many more participants. I'd like to hand it over to Vikas to take it forward from here. Welcome, Vikas.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. And thanks a lot, Vani, for inviting me for such a session. I think one of the things that you just pointed out, that people are hesitant in writing, that's because that we are not telling our students to, write about our designs. We're telling them to make good drawings or good presentations, but not like forcing them to, express in words as much as you can. So that's where we have been lacking, and it's a really great initiative that you guys are teaching in your college. The process of writing in architecture, it's really good to know that the change is actually happening to make people write about stuff that we are designing, so that people can read about it. That's the primary idea. Like why do we want to write about architecture? To basically tell the story behind the design that we are doing. So we cannot always come across and explain people in live presentations. We have to we'll like document our projects and like show them in words along with the designs, presentations or the imagery that we create. We are more focused on softwares and creating the best imagery that we can do for our design, but writing is equally important, like as as far as related to presentation of the design. So I really appreciate the efforts that APJ School of Architecture is doing in this direction. And thanks again for inviting me. So let me know, Vani, that what from what we can start, and
Sure. Vikas, as I said, when I asked for your profile, I still
yeah,
had no idea. I knew you're running, you're the person behind Rethinking the Future,
yeah,
but I don't want to read the whole profile and overwhelm the viewers.
yeah,
But you have done urban design from SPA and
yeah,
architecture, of course. You
yeah,
have been a TEDx speaker. You
yeah,
have been honored at the centenary celebration of Indian Institute of Architects for your contribution when you actually
I
curated the exhibition of 100 years of architecture. And in 2012 you started the Rethinking the Future. You have, and the Rethinking the Future, the numbers that you gave, I'm sure they have been updated now. There are more readers. You have 40,000 projects, 20,000 articles, and more than 1,000 writers. So the best thing is that you are not just writing yourself, you are giving a platform to all the writers across to publish their works, all the students to publish their articles on your platform. You have also Rethinking the Future has hosted the Future Awards, Rethinking the Future Awards,
yeah,
and since 2012, and names like Zaha Hadid, Perkins Eastman, HOK, Page, AHR, and so many more. I don't want to read the whole list again. They have been the winners and participants in your awards.
yeah,
And then the latest surprise that when I started following your website was that you have started those digital courses. This
yeah,
is the time for digital courses, and all the architecture students, as faculty, sometimes we feel we are not able to tell the students how to write a dissertation, how to do a thesis. As a student also we have faced that difficulty. As faculty also we are facing that difficulty. And with EduVic you have started these digital courses, and you are also offering a free course which you
yeah,
in your first meeting you offered.
yeah,
So this journey has been incredible. I was very, very, happily surprised to read your profile. And I thought that it will be very beneficial for the students as well as the faculties equally to see your journey. So just to begin with,
yeah.
we already have certain questions from the students who are interested from my journalism class and from the student magazine team.
Okay.
But uh, in the beginning, can you just in brief share what
Hmm.
has your how did you do this from 2012 as a blog? From
Yeah.
that blog, how did you make it such a successful business idea?
Yeah. So I think I should rather start from, since most of the people who have joined here are students. So I should probably start my journey back from when I was doing architecture in SPA Delhi. So I think for the first 2 years, I was, really confused that why did I choose architecture, and I was really not good in the designing. So in the second year in the house design project, I almost flunked, but I somehow managed to pass. And in third year, when a lot of softwares came in, like till second year we were forced to do our designing through hand and using drafting as a tool. But in third year we started experimenting on softwares, and I started to follow all the people that were doing the good design. So I thought, if I cannot think of good design, then maybe I should follow what they are doing and just try to achieve that. So that's how I really got into the architecture in third year, and I started learning a lot of softwares which could help me in presenting my design. And eventually in third year I topped both in internal and external juries. So this happened, and I somehow cracked my own process of designing. Like, I used to start through playing of forms and started designing in sections instead of using plan as the medium. So that would give me a more 3D visual of the design that I could imagine, and I could then eventually, with the help of software, I could present that. And when in fourth year I had to choose my topic for dissertation, that's why my interest in like reading about climate change came in, because I was reading a lot about green buildings and all, but I was not really aware of the topic. So I was appointed Dr. Vinod Gupta as the guide. And when I met him, then he proposed that, why don't you just uh, do a new thing about climate change, that is, what if it is happening, we how can we adapt to it? Like, so far, so now we have been reading about a lot of processes about mitigation of the climate change, but what if it is happening? So how do we adapt to that? What kind of architecture will be that? So I thought that it's an interesting topic, and I had to read a lot about the current affairs, because nobody was writing about the adaptation of the climate change back then, in 2010. So, and I started writing my dissertation, and when I submitted my first draft, so Gupta sir really asked me that, did you write it yourself? So, and he gave an extra 1 mark for just my introduction. So that's where I realized that I have potential of writing. So that's how the writing came in, and my interest for climate change and sustainability came in, which eventually translated into my architectural thesis project, where I designed a skyscraper. So, like, all of my knowledge of the 4 years was culminating here. Like, result, the outcome of my dissertation was that we need to think on 3 parameters, like shelter, food, and water, to be, able to adapt to climate change. So my idea was to provide a shelter where we can, you know, and have a higher footprint, a higher density, because that is what we are going to need in the future. And then how can we generate water within the site? How can we uh, uh, grow food in our on our terraces? These were, the parameters that I was working in. And my thesis, like, it really got appreciated by all the faculties back then. And then I submitted it on Architizer. At that time, there were only 3 4 platforms that we were referring. One was Arcteli, other was Architizer, and then there was Inhabitat and a few others, like Dazine was there. So I submitted on Architizer because you could create your profile and submit your design over there. And since I was already interested in writing, so I had written a lot about my project, my thesis project too. So it was a sort of article in itself, like eco skyscraper in Noida city center, how it's helping the climate change, fighting the climate change, something like that. And it got picked up by 100 other websites. And when you could search on search for, like, for my name, or for like skyscraper, this was appearing top in the search results by the Google. And that's how I even got to know. Nobody was telling me that we are publishing a product. They was just picking it from Architizer and Inhabitat I also submitted there. So this happened, and I realized that, because I was good at writing maybe, and I had a good design, and so it got the reach that, that was not usually the case with the other architectural projects. So it happened easily for me because I already created the content, the right content. Like, I had the words and the drawings and the design graphics in place. So it really helped, because a lot of web portals or the magazines, it got published in various magazines as well, like some books on architectural rendering as well. So a lot of people, tend to, pick ready to publish kind of stuff. So, and it was one of that. Unknowingly, I did that, which now I teach that, you should create content, something that people can publish easily, so you get higher chances of getting published. So that happened. And with that, I happened to get queries, like, I was getting invited to TEDx talks just to present my project. So, and all this happened within 1 year of my after my graduation. After, and then I received my degree in, like, 1 year later in May. So till then I was a two-time speaker at TEDx, and my project was published, and I was hoping to start my firm, but because I didn't have any connections, so I was working under Anuj Mehta Architects back then, working on housing and all. So, and apart from sustainability, I had, like, this you can call Kida in myself, that I used to, search a lot of projects, a lot about projects that were doing good for the future or for sustainability. So I used to save them and send them to over mail to all my friends, like read about this article, read about this project. So they told me, why don't you just create a page and we'll watch it there. It'll be easy for us to access. Why stop spamming us? So that's how I started the idea of like documenting all the projects in one place, and that was a Facebook page of RTF. And how the name appeared, like I started my architecture firm, like just I said that because I got published, I thought a lot of queries for projects are going to come in, so I should be ready with the studio name and everything in place. So I had my studio name as Embassy of Architecture, and I thought that I should have a motto. What's the motto? What kind of design do we do? So on my visiting card on the backside, I wrote "Rethinking the Future." So when I was starting this Facebook page, I thought like maybe that's a good name to start with. So that's how Rethink the Future came in. Back then, I didn't had any knowledge of like how people search for stuff or any search engine optimization, anything like that. So I had just this name in my mind, Rethink the Future, and the short form was RT, which kind of I liked it. I shared with the idea with my friends, and they like that. You just go ahead with this name. So that's how the blog came in. Like I started Facebook, and soon after that, there was a site like Wix where I could create my website through very uh, drag and drop sort of builder sort of way. And so I was sharing projects from my website then and asking people to publish their projects on my website. So these things came in, and some of my seniors told me that yeah, this could be something like Arc Daily. And then that really got hit, that what am I doing? Maybe it can have a larger vision to become something like that. It's just I started it out of hobby or out of interest, but then I started taking it seriously. So first thing that I did, I updated my website. I got it on WordPress where I could, upload a lot of things with ease, because platforms like Wix are not very good for like updating for like a dynamic database, like where you are uploading a lot of stuff daily. That they are good for creating your static website. Like for a studio, I would recommend that. But for if you're running a magazine, an online portal, that I won't recommend that. So I started to ask a lot of people like, are you interested in submitting a project? I'm running this portal, and things started picking up, and people used to send me a lot of pictures and not text. So I used to write about their projects and then publish it on my platform. And then in order to grow, I realized that I cannot do all stuff myself. Like I cannot be writing about the projects. I cannot be asking the projects uh, all the people, and and publishing at the same time. These are three different tasks. So and I had a job, a regular job, till the time I was doing all this stuff. Like I started to in 2012, but in 2014 I actually started my office for Rethink the Future. For 2 years I was running doing this all parallelly. So I started to create process for each thing. Like if I am writing that what all needs to be there if I'm covering a project, so there comes a format for that. And when I'm publishing a project, what all things do I need to take care? Like there has to be a cover image, then there is certain styles that I need to cover. So and the backend of WordPress is there. So I started hiring people and teaching them that how you can do this. Like I was just hiring anyone like who has the basic knowledge of computer and has interest in architecture. So that person was good for me. I could teach. So even when I'm inviting projects, I just need someone who can go to a website, check their project. If they're liking something that is needs to be covered, then they will write mail to them. So there is a format for that also. So I started standardizing everything that I was doing so that I could focus on what next needs to be done. So that was the idea, matlab start point of how I was growing from a blog to becoming a platform eventually. And in 2014 I was starting it, I doing it full time. And 1 year later I joined urban design. And where in during my master I used to write, I was forced to write about a lot of stuff like related to architecture, about city making, city designing. And that's where I realized that it's not just project that I need to publish. I should be more focusing on the topics, the knowledge that that I was gaining through the course of urban design, the process of making our cities better, like right from a product design to a landscape to urban design, or the architecture as a unit, the building as a unit. So I need to talk all about all of this stuff. So I into like 2015 to 17 I was doing my masters, and after just when I finished my masters, I had this idea that I want to now expand it as much as I can. So I got into the numbers. I learned search engine optimization, and I started writing about a lot of stuff. And then I created a process. Like after this doing a parallel courses on search engine optimization, digital marketing, social media, and all, I evolved a process like if I am going to write something and if it's not reaching the people, then it doesn't serve the purpose. So I had to make sure that it appears in Google search. So how do we do that? So we I started searching for the topics that people are already searching and not getting the right information about. So that's where the whole thing of like uh, keyword research and analysis, how the other platforms are writing about, if they're writing a good material on it, or there is still a chance to improve upon it. So I was choosing those topics that people are already searching for. And then I started this with this idea, like maybe there are people who are interested in writing about architecture. So through RTF and through RTF Instagram page, I think I started to ask people if anybody who's interested and who wants to write, we will help. We'll publish them. There is no fee. We'll talk. We'll discuss their interest, and then eventually we evolved a writing training program where we have like we give 15 weeks, one article every week, and we take interest over what they are willing to write about, and then we do a small analysis on our end, that if somebody is interested about climate change, then what should be the topic of that, the title of the article that the person should be writing. So we suggest uh, the topic to them, then they write, and then we curate, then we edit ourselves, we create a cool graphic for that. We got our graphic design team in place who are creating content for Instagram page to engage with all the people. And these very very small steps organically we took, and eventually we made where we are today. Like currently we have, and that writing training program really picked, like a lot of people who are showing interest. When I said like more than 1,000 writers are connected, about almost most of them, like we have an in-house team, but a lot of them are the writers who are novice, like who want to write about architecture but they don't have any idea. And so we were giving them platform, we were curating their articles, and we were publishing them with their due credits. And when they got to see that, when they're searching for their topic and it's appearing in the Google search, they also really liked, and it was spreading. Like we were not really promoting ourselves, but it got promoted through people who are working with us, and then they eventually tell in their batches. And that is the reason also that it took really a good amount of time for us to grow. Like back in 2012 and now it's 2022, took us 10 years to be where we are right now. So that's a small brief of the journey that I think I've taken so far.
I think that is really really I had not imagined it that your journey would be so incredible. Yes, it is. I have a lot more questions in my mind now than I had prepared before. Some students have asked certain questions.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any questions from the audience, you can type in the chat box. But firstly, we will take the questions which the students have already shared with me.
Okay.
So the first question that the student has asked, one of the students from my journalism and the magazine class, is to a lot of students, which even directors are asked, to a lot of students, language feels as a barrier. That English mein likhna padega. A lot of students have great ideas. They might have ideas, but they feel that there is a lack. They can't translate it into a language which is good and readable. They get just scared by reading even the Arc Daily articles. They seem overwhelming because English writing is not really evolved for everybody. So how do you deal with that? How does one deal with that, overcome that language barrier?
I think before, thinking language as a barrier, I think it's an opportunity, for you to write in your regional language. Why do you need to write about in English? First, you need to ask yourself, like before we are even getting to, like to whom we are writing, that should be our primary aim. And that comes from the small steps that we take. Like we should first, if I may, like I think I should probably start with the structure of like how to define the target audience, and how, what are we writing, how are we writing, and how do we define the length. And then coming to the language, like what language do we need to write it in, right? So suppose we take any subject, like it's a private residence, like a residence which is, let's imagine, designed by you, and it's a green project, like you are trying to achieve some zero energy thing with your design home. Okay, so what's the purpose of, like it's the subject, like it's a private residence. The purpose would be like, you, if you are an architect and you are writing about your project, your purpose could be to promote your work, and eventually your goal would be to, get more clients, right? So you are writing to get more projects, so your clients could read about your project, and eventually you get some leads, right? So that would define your target audience. You know where to publish. Now your target audience might not be reading architectural design. Okay, architects are reading that. So you might need to reach out to the people who are living in your city, because you might get projects from where you are based, or from the or you can get the projects uh, where you have designed the project, right? The region where you are in. Suppose you have designed the home in Jaipur, so you might want to, uh, a lot of people that read newspaper are usually subscribed to both English and one of their regional language. Like if somebody is placed in Gujarat, they will be taking Times of India and some uh, something in their Gujarati language, right? So this thing happens across India, I think. So why do you need to write in English? First thing, just write in your local language, so that it can get published, reach to the clientele that you are approaching. You don't need to focus on A+E, or you don't need to get in published in fancy magazines. Secondly, once you are done with your writing in your regional language, you can easily translate it, then get it proofread by your friends, or maybe anyone on Fiverr. They really charge very few amount to, do that. So that can be done. So if that way you can, overcome the barrier of language. You don't necessarily need to write in English. Just write with the language which you are comfortable in, and then get it translated and proofread, and then get it published on the other platforms. So these
Yeah,
things happen. Like
I think
a lot of content that we write in English, we get it translated in different languages, like in Spanish and French, because we are now, the next step is to get into the regional languages. So and not just international, we are getting translations done in Gujarati, Marathi, and all these languages. And we are planning to, launch all these subdomains of RTF to post content in these languages very soon. That's the idea.
absolutely. That's a wonderful idea, that you should write whatever you are in the language you are thinking.
Yes.
If you, whatever language you think in, you just write that down
Right.
in that language, and then translation and grammar correction is secondary. So
Yeah,
that
and
brings,
you get a lot of tools right now. Like I'm now
absolutely,
really good with my grammar, right? But
absolutely,
Grammarly is there, so I can correct my writing on the software itself.
right. So that comes to another question that I face in the journalism class also, and some student
Yeah.
has also asked, that writing includes perspective, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the perspective for something can differ from yours. I have a different perspective, but if I am writing about a project, I am criticizing a project, how do you confirm the relevance and aptness of any article?
I think,
Because everybody would want to write their point of view,
yeah.
so that perspective question is always there.
So I think relevance doesn't come from a perspective.
Okay.
It comes from the subject that you are writing about. Suppose you are writing about a project like Central Vista. So you are interested in Central Vista, right? Somebody might write that, this is a disaster. You might like to read that. And somebody might say that this is the best project that has ever happened. You might even be interested in reading that also. So it is not about the perspective, and you should have a perspective. If you don't have any perspective, how are you going to write? So that's there, but the relevancy comes from the subject that you are picking. So
Great, great.
yeah,
That brings a lot of clarity.
yeah,
That it is not important what perspective you are writing from. It has to be a strong opinion,
yeah.
but the
Unless
importance is
unless
of
unless
the relevance.
unless you are reporting something, like you are writing
In
a news
newspapers, because
article.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, yes.
Then
When you are
they
publishing in a newspaper,
yeah,
because a lot of sentiments are involved for the public, for the government, you want your
yeah.
voices to be heard, but you have to
You
take
you
care.
you you can't be biased in that. Like you have to be, yeah, taking both the sides.
Okay. So that brings me to my third question from the student again, that in the
Yeah.
field of writing, plagiarism is something which is always, we are very
Yeah.
strict about and observed. Everybody will check it. And
Hmm.
now it has become easier to check through softwares.
Hmm.
So, and it is not easy to be curbed out. To what extent do you think that it blocks the creativity of a person? That a
I
student has
think
asked this question.
I think if somebody is writing which is highly plagiarized, I think there is a lack of creativity there. It's not blocking out creativity. So these
But
are two different things. Like why, let's understand why plagiarism happens. When you are quoting something, right?
yeah,
When somebody has already written about something, and suppose let's take example of your design home only. Like you are explaining the earth tunneling of the process, like how you are using that to design your home, or how the sun comes from the east, then stays in south, and it falls, sunrise falls at an angle of it. These things that we have already read about, like we know, and you can't change these facts, like earth tunneling happening this way. But you don't just quote it like that, right? You take the idea of it, like, and how you have integrated that in your design. That should be what you should, that is what you should be writing about. So you can't just explain earth tunneling just like that, but how you use it in your project, that will remove all the plagiarism that is coming in your article. Or if you are like quoting something, then I think that that's probably fine. 15% is acceptable, like everywhere. So just don't quote too much. Write what you feel that has been quoted. So that's there. Like Philip Johnson said, that architecture is waste of space. Now you can either simply write that, or you can just write what is your opinion on that, or how do you feel if it's a waste of space or not, or how do you take architecture. So that's why you can avoid plagiarism. If plagiarism is coming, that means that you are lacking creativity. It's not carving out the creativity.
true. So, Vikas, we have a student, Tanya, from third
Hmm.
year,
Yeah.
and she's really interested in writing, and she would
Hmm.
like to ask a question herself. So,
Sure.
I invite Tanya to switch on her camera and please ask the question.
Good morning, everyone. So, first of all, we are lucky enough to hear from you, and your journey is really very inspiring. So, one question that I had in my mind is that we're talking of journalism as a niche, as in people have different opinions on what scope does journalism offer.
Hmm.
So, could you just compare architectural designing and architectural journalism as different professions?
Okay, I think so far we have been talking about writing in architecture. But when we are talking about journalism, it's a profession, right? You can be a writer or you can choose to be a journalist. Those two are two different things. One, we have to have that clarity. When you are a writer, you can be, writing about a lot of stuff, but you don't necessarily do the fact checking. You might quote what architect is saying. But when you are a journalist and you are writing about a project, you might interview. A lot of queries came in, data checking and referencing came in when you are a journalist. So if you ask me, like suppose I'm writing again about the home design by the great architect Vani Dua. So what do we do? We ask her opinion, right? If you are a writer and you're getting it published uh, on some web portal, you might just simply ask her words, and then you share your opinion and just do the writing and submit it, and it get published. which is usually happening all around, right? But you are a journalist. So you, when you interview her, you go to the site and check what she's saying is right or not. If earth tunneling is really reducing by the temperature by 10 degrees or not. So these things comes in with the profession. A journalist can be a writer, but a writer cannot be a journalist, right? So that has to be. And in terms of parallel, so it's the amount of knowledge that you get in architecture as a profession. Like the amount, suppose if you are a sports journalist, so you must have knowledge, and you are writing about some cricket article, then you must have in and out a knowledge of cricket, how all are the players and how do they play, what is square cut or what is LBW. You must know all this stuff, right? So similarly, if you are an architectural journalist, you must know architecture. So there are two ways to go about it. Once you, like, you become an architect and then you choose journalism as your field, or you are a writer who turn into a journalist, then you learn about architecture. So there is no like any other way to become an architectural journalist. You must have the knowledge of both the fields, and that's the only parallel I think I can see in both the profession.
Thank you, sir.
I think we have another student.
Yeah.
Muskan, are you there? Would you like to ask your question?
Oh, good morning, sir.
Morning.
I have a question. Like, if I talk about documentation, then documentation has several aspects to it. Like, for example, we were given a assignment to document a place or a building or a space, to write a cover story, basically. So I went, like, my area was Majnu Ka Tila in Delhi. So I studied that place. There were various aspects to that documentation. So while writing, I was not aware of the fact कि कौन सा aspect लेकर के चलूं to write that cover story. So how do we decide कि कौन सा aspect लेना है for the documentation?
For the cover story of Majnu Ka Tila.
Sir,
You're talking about.
that is an example जो मैं अभी कर रही हूँ. In general, how should we decide the aspect of a documentation?
Anything that makes your piece of writing different from anything that has been written should be the priority.
Sorry, sir.
Anything, I'm saying anything that you think is, you know, the gist, the power of your site or the Majnu Ka Tila, anything that, you know, strikes really hard to you while you are visiting the site, and anything that you feel that has not been written about, anything that makes your piece of writing different from any other thing that has been written already about Majnu Ka Tila should be your ideal priority, so that it is some fresh perspective or something that people has not read about, so they would like to read what is this about Majnu Ka Tila. So that will make your piece of writing, you know, more interesting for people to read, I think.
So like in general भी अगर किसी चीज के document कर रहे हैं, so first of all we need to look into the मतलब कि क्या available है on the like
available material, like yeah, for referencing you are saying.
नहीं सर, जैसे अगर हम किसी चीज के बारे में लिख रहे हैं तो
there's like two type of research that you do. First is your primary, that you go to the site and then you study. Second is you get a lot of secondary research, that, you know, what are the documents available about the site, if there is like master plan or some area specific plan from BDA you get. So these two things, you know, will make a great story together. So suppose if you are just visiting and not getting any data about your site, anything related to how the wastage system work, or how the planning has been done, or how, or you don't know the historicity of the place, then the cover story might lack a point that, you know, that would make it interesting. So you first do, like, you do research on both the level, or you visit, you experience it, and second is you get to know, like, learn from where you can get the reference data for it, like how you can, what you're saying, how can you know, put that through some sort of referencing through some data from BDA, or some architect who has designed a building there, what was their experience of designing building over there. So these things comes as the secondary research, which you should really include in the story that you are writing about. for a subject like that. And also, again, like everything is derived from these 3-4 steps that I was talking about: the subject, the purpose, the target audience. You must be clear that whom you are writing for, and that changes everything. Now, suppose I would again go back to the example of this house as Vani has designed, right? So if she wants to get it published in an architectural magazine, suppose in a magazine. So who all are the people who are reading a magazine? So nobody, reads it like the way we read content on our on the web portals. Like in web portal, we have a lot of distraction, right? The artist page might be one of the tab of 30 tabs that you have already opened. One might be running Instagram, one might be Facebook. So we are running for attention in the web scene, right? So there the attention could be the title of the article could be something that that one would want to click on, and it might like go something like can a home truly be net zero? This house has the answer, something like that you can write, or Vanidu has the answer. So somebody might want to click on something like that. And suppose if you're writing for a magazine, then the people is that he's relaxing, is probably waiting in some waiting area and reading it out in a lobby, is traveling and reading magazine over there, or he has simply subscribed to it. So he is obviously going to read it at an ease. So you want to put in all the details there, and you might just say like a green paradise by architect Vani Dua could be just be the title of your article there. Now that suppose she's targeting people who eventually she wants to turn into her clients, then the heading of and like she stays in Noida and she has designed a home in Jaipur. So she is either targeting people in Jaipur or in Noida. So the heading, the title of the article changes accordingly. So if she wants to get it published in a local newspaper in Noida, she would probably write, "This home in Noida cools itself. Let's see how." Something like that. So they would write. They want to read about a home that is being designed in their neighborhood, and then they eventually get to know about her work and that's where she's based or something like that. Or suppose she wants to tell people uh, outside of Noida, then probably the heading could be this young architect from Noida has designed a home that cools itself. So that changes the reason why people want to read it. So that's how you like curate the article and change title. And suppose if you are writing for an architectural magazine, what you do is you reach out to them. Usually magazines comes in like they come out on based on themes. Like for February they might have theme of mud architecture, something like that. And you are interested right in writing for a like for a magazine like that, or you want first you need to know who all are magazines out there who are interested in writing your architectural project. So you want to tell them that we have designed a sustainable home. If you are covering something like that, so I would be happy to share the whole project. You create a small brief, like a small media kit sort of thing, where you have put in 2-3 images of the project and a small brief. You don't just submit the whole article in the first go, and then you ask that would you be interested in covering this in a single page or 2 page or 4 page story. Then accordingly you write for the magazine. Similarly, when you are writing for newspaper, you reach out to the editors and you submit again your idea that this is what we have, you are interested in. And again, if you create something that is ready to publish, people are going to pick your product. So make sure, like if you are writing an article on Majnu Patila, make sure you have a nice cover image related to that with all due credits. You have the writing in place with all the referencing that needs to be done, and then they will eventually publish it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think the key word that you've said is ready to publish. You
Ready
repeated
to
it
publish.
earlier. If
Yes,
you
yes,
have
yes.
content ready, which is ready to be published, it will be picked up.
Yeah,
It will be picked up sooner or later. It will be picked up.
yeah.
So I have a lot of questions, but I would like to invite if anybody else in the audience has questions anymore. Otherwise, I will ask few more questions. Is there anybody in the audience? Then you can type in the chat box. And by the time questions are coming, because I have a question that
Yeah.
You talked about digital marketing, that how important. That is what I have been struggling with personally, that, oh, I have not published a single article till now. And I have interest of writing since I have been writing my personal diaries before in school, right? But I have not published an article at all, because one is the fear of being judged by the others. That is one. I'm telling about my personal fear. And the second is, I think, I don't know this, which you said, if it will be reaching, kya fayda hoga usse? Do char log padenge. Digital marketing is a handicap which I face personally. So research paper likhenge, to usse kya hoga? You know, these questions have been coming into my mind, and that is what, or sometimes then you get busy in other things and you do not focus on writing. So how do you overcome these fears?
So first thing, I would say that the fear of not reaching, not making it reaching out to the people is because you are writing even you're just writing out of your interest. You are not clear about to whom you want it to write for, like what is your target audience. Again, like these 4 or 5 steps are really important. They define your style of writing, the kind of words that you are using, or even the length of your article. Suppose if you want to get it published on a web portal, right? Because you want to make it reach out to lots of people. So you might approach platforms like RTF or ArcDaily or Archdizer or Inhabited. So if you have clarity about this and you have a topic in mind, you'll write something that is short. Like you'll write 600, try to say your point in 600 to 1000 words, so that people can actually read your whole article. Because on if somebody is reading on web, they are not going to read a long article. But if you're getting published in a journal, which is going to be there in some architectural library or something like that, you can write the whole story, the whole 3-4 pages, and people are going to read it. So if you have that clarity, you will your content will reach to those people whom you are writing it for. And the fear of uh, getting judged,
Being judged.
yeah. So that I think these days a lot of people are putting out a lot of content, right? A lot of people, a lot of content is there, and nobody has a time to judge. They just want to read, have fun, and just be aware of. Nobody's going to write your piece of writing and wonder, even if he or she is wondering that what kind of person she is. And the next thing, they will be busy in their work. They are not going to remember that for very long. So that consciousness, what people are going to think, they are not thinking at all, like not much, or not for very long. Things like these, like say, if a project like Central Vista is being placed there, no, and one just think the mind through the mind of the architect, Mr. Patel. So what if he had to think about, like, what would people think of himself if he is doing a project like that? He won't be designing that, right? So but we have to actually overcome that consciousness. And do not be afraid of the opinions. You can answer questions, but you cannot answer opinions. So let people make their judgments, have their opinions, and let them share that as well. But do not answer that until it's a question, that question to you, that why do you write such a stuff? Then you can explain that, this is what I felt, this is what I've experienced. Then you can share the backstory.
And I think the architecture school does prepare you to accept criticism. Yes. When you have 4 faculty criticizing your design, you're already mentally prepared for criticism, whatever yes. kind of it may come. You actually, the architecture college trains you to filter that criticism, to understand exactly. whether your criticism is unjustified or not. Yeah. If it is unjustified, it is appreciation in disguise. So yes, that is definitely there. Thank you, Vikas. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. The last thing that I would want you to share is that your training program, your writing training program. A lot of my students in journalism, as well as the other student, the Tanya who asked of Student Magazine, they want to ask and want to know more about the course, free writing course that you are offering, that they definitely want to know, and your other courses as well.
Okay. First, the writing training program, we select every month 2 times. Like on the first Monday and the third Monday, we shortlist all the applications that have come on our website. A lot of people apply through our website only. There is a page, if you go into the menu, there is a page for writing training program. You can read about it. So it's just, you have to write like 1,000 words a week. It's not a lot of it's not a task that takes a lot of energy. Like people can easily manage it with their regular architectural work that they do, even if they are students, or even if they are young graduates, or they can easily manage to write if they are interested in writing. So what we do is we initially take some ask for the interest that they are generally interested in writing, like 5 to 6 interest areas we ask them, and accordingly we suggest topics. We give them topics because we know what is being searched for. We do analysis on our end, and what is the keyword that people are searching for, or what would make it readable to people who are not otherwise interested in reading. The hard part is like we want to make people read about architecture. That's a task. Okay, it's not just a flashy image that we want to create, that people are going to see it on Instagram. So it's a website where people are going to come and read. They want to spend 5-6 minutes on to your article. So a lot of things needs to be taken care of. Like you need to be very much focused on the topic that you are writing. Be to the point. A lot of articles that we do are list based because that way it saves the time of the reader. One might say it's not a very good way to write any article, because if you have listed down all the points, then there is no writing left to be done. People think it like that, but it's not like that at all. You start with an introduction of the topic, and then you probably, if you are covering suppose writing about modern architecture, we would like you to, if list down what are the key areas of modern architecture, then eventually detail them out, so that if people are interested, they filter out content. Like first they want to see what the topic is, then we present the topic through our cover image as well, so that if we are sharing it on our social media, if they are not reading the title, at least they would see the cover image. So there two ways we try to approach the audience. And then when they click on the article, we make sure that the introduction is there to give them sufficient idea about what this article is going to be. And then they read out, they read the headings, and then they do read the details. That's the whole like hierarchy
But
of the
students
content.
have, because we understood that your training program, we have no doubt, since you have done it, so
Yeah.
your training program would be great. But how do students approach you? Because there is a question in the chat box by Yamini Rajput where she says
Yeah.
that she has applied on your website but has not been able to get through.
So how long she has been applied for?
Yamini, would you like to answer that question?
Like I said, we usually
Yes, ma'am. Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am.
yeah, hi.
Sir, I've been applying multiple times. Like whenever I open your website, I get to go to the link and apply for that internship tab of yours. But I've never been able to get through. Like I am even not sure that have my application reached you guys or not. So that is my
Did you not
concern.
receive any automated generated email from RTF to your email ID?
I think once I got, and after that also I applied, but later on I didn't get
Yeah,
anything from you guys.
so we asked for a sample article, right? You must have uploaded a sample article along with your application.
Yes, I did. Yes.
So that's the only criteria of selecting people. If their initial writing is not at the par that we think should be included in the training program, we can train people who have some, like I'm not here to discourage you, but you might have chosen the wrong article probably. So you might apply, if you can apply
Yes,
again
sir.
with another article, then there are chances that our
Yeah.
editorial team will pick you. pick your
Oh,
content and then we
sure, sir.
select you in the group.
Sure.
So if we we don't blacklist anyone. So if you are not being selected in 2 weeks, then you apply again with another article.
Sure,
That's
sir.
the process.
Because I have a query. If anyone has already published an article in some journal, can they
Yeah.
still send it to you or you only take fresh articles, something which has not been published before?
If it has been published in a magazine already, then they can tell us so that this has already been published, and we'll still would like to publish that on our web portal. And if it's not present online anywhere else, like if it's already been published on
Yeah, no, it's
magazine,
been, if it's not been published online, but been published in print media.
yeah, so we
So,
publish that.
and
If
it
an
is
article
sent
is
to
published,
you,
then
then, yeah. So
we
you
publish
just
that.
give credit that it's been published in, yeah, okay,
Yeah, so that there is no copyright issue for the sake of that.
sure.
So if the author is the same for both the articles, and then they mention that this has been published already in so and so magazine, so there's no
Could you also tell our students, something about the copyright issues, that if they write an article and, who, once it get published in a magazine, let's say
yeah,
physically,
yeah.
who is the owner of that? Is it solely the magazine,
No, the
or
the
the
content
author has the
belongs to
right
author.
to send it to other in online mode or other mode for publication?
See, any article that is published on our platform, we are the media of publishing, right? We do not hold the right of that article. The article belongs to author. In fact, we encourage, once you get published on RTF, because we have done a lot of research on R and too, we tell them that you can get it published on your personal blog too, so that eventually your blog grows along with your profile on RTF.
Okay.
So even if you are getting it published in some magazine, suppose if the text is being written by the magazine, then the copyright stays with the magazine. But if text is written by you, images provided by you, or if there is some professional photographer that you have hired for the project, the image credit goes to him or her. So that's how the copyright works. Like, so publishing platform doesn't hold the right of the content if they are not writing.
I think that answers a lot of questions, and I still have a lot of questions, because but the time would be too short to get all those. I think I might join your training program very soon, because I personally need it for my personal growth as a writer, and I would highly recommend the students to join your program. Can you share your email ID, where if any other queries, students who have not been able to ask the questions right now, or who would be watching this video later on the YouTube, can write to you for their queries?
Yeah, so
Can you please type your email ID in the chat box?
yeah, sure.
And I will just read it out, and we will put it on the YouTube link also.
Yeah.
So that if anybody wants to reach out to Vikas.
You can take one last question.
Yeah, sure,
Could you take one last question from
Yes,
anyone?
sir. If anybody has any question, we can take that question, but no questions have till now been coming, sir. So I have a personal question, that digital marketing, digital marketing. So I want you to create a digital marketing course for that, because my question will not be answered here. I have researched enough about all the courses that are available already on digital marketing. But can you please create, or do you already have a course on digital marketing? How do you market your blog?
Like a digital marketing for architects, if you say, like for a design firm.
Anything, I mean, anything. If I start my blog today, and if I start writing about architecture or anything else, maybe, then how did you do it? What process did you follow to learn the marketing? It has been a journey, definitely over 10 years. But if today, can you bring it in a nutshell? Ki aisa karna chahiye, ye shortcut hai.
Again, your goal has to be clear. If you want to be a writer, then you approach your direction completely in a different way. Like then your clientele is the architects,
Okay.
not the people who are getting their home designed, but the people who are designing the project. Then you are writing for architects. Then you can probably use the style of writing. You can use more words. The vocabulary accordingly. Like if you are writing for a general public, you might want to use a vocabulary that is more suitable for them. But for architects, if you want them to read, then you want to get it published on the magazines that are published that architects are reading. Right. Secondly, you network with those people. How do you network? You network through LinkedIn and through Facebook. Instagram is not for writing. LinkedIn is. So you start writing daily your thoughts, just your thoughts. So people know that if she has interest in writing, she has an architectural background, and you just mention every once in a while that I'm open to write for people who are willing to get their project documented or get written about. Just say it out loud so that people hear.
True.
That's the whole idea of like digital marketing is not a rocket science. It's just being out there and talking about your stuff regularly. The consistency has to be there. Suppose
Consistency. Yes,
yes,
that is the key word I would
yeah.
pick.
So all the content that you have written in your diary, you just need to filter that out. Like first you need to define that this goes to these kind of people. This is I have written for architects. This I want people to read in general. So your school friends might be a good target audience for that. So and they probably be connected to you on Facebook. You might want to post that on Facebook. And then there are architects who are connected to you with you on LinkedIn. You might want to post a different kind of content there, and then you network accordingly. And eventually
That's of great help, because I think I am going to pick up all my diaries from last year's so many diaries and filter that content and then publish it on different platforms. That's of really great help, Vikas. Okay, so your email ID is with us now, vikas@rethinkingthefuture.com.
Yeah, there is hyphen after RE.
Yes, we will post the written link everywhere. Everywhere. So I would like to really thank you. Really thank you that I have personally got so much clarity. I should have connected with you a lot earlier. And we will now constantly keep in touch, and all the students are also welcome to send their articles to Rethinking the Future. And if your articles are selected,
again, I want to tell students, if they think their content is ready to publish, then they don't need to apply for training program. Just send in your articles and then we'll review it and publish accordingly. And also make sure that you submit your profile as well, because we want to publish the author profile along with the article that they're sending. So just a few words about in 70-80 words, like that tells people who you are.
And one, if I may add, the journal team, which is coming to within a newsletter or a journal, whatever we may call it. So we could request Vikas once they are ready with the draft to share it with them to get his review also. That will give a lot of confidence to our students.
Definitely, sir.
Sure,
that was the plan. Student magazine. There are Tanya, Muskan. They're all part of student magazine, and there are other students also who are there and part of student magazine. Once the framework is ready, we will send it to you, Vikas, for a review.
Sure. Would love to read that.
Yeah, definitely. So, Director sir, would you also like to say something in the end as a closing remark?
I think it's been a remarkable platform to be here and to talk about writing, because not very often, people talk about the importance of writing in architecture. So I think this is now students will get a different perspective that how important writing is. And each one of them is, as I said earlier, they write, but they how do you shape your ideas? How do you transform your ideas on paper? The way it has to be structured to capture first for the other person to understand what you're trying to convey so effectively is something that if they continue do this writing, and eventually they will it'll become a passion. It is not something that you can force anyone to read or force anyone to write. But once they develop the passion, and then they will develop the flair for writing also. And each one has their own style. So, the giveaway from today's talk is that this is I can see not much as a business point of view, but more as a passion that Vikas has brought writing into architecture. And this is a passion which many of you do have, but it is, it is there in you, and you have to, put it on paper and share ideas. And my only advice to the students is that don't, hesitate that if your paper, whether you send it for, for online publication or for print media, if it gets rejected, each writer gets at some point rejection, so that should not put you that, you cannot write a paper. Maybe you have one thought didn't appeal or didn't click, doesn't mean that you don't have many other thoughts that you can put it on paper. So keep writing, keep sending it. Your work will get appreciated and published. And the joy you get once you get your paper published anyway, it's a great joy. And so thank you so much, Vikas, for joining. And we hope to be connected again shortly. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for inviting me. It has been a wonderful experience, like answering to your questions. And even, these questions give me also some clarity that what what is it that I'm doing. So that's a good way to, review your work as well. Like these things give that opportunity to oneself. So thanks again for inviting me and giving me this
Thank you
platform
so
to
much,
share my
Vikas.
ideas.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vikas. I do not want to appreciate you more. So we will. But I just would like to summarize the key takeaways. I have not written all of them, but you can write in your regional language. So language is not a barrier. If you have a publish ready article, it will be picked up by any one or the other, team. If not today, then tomorrow it will be picked up. You need to be consistent and passionate about your writing. The relevance of the article is not in your perspective, but in the topic, that issue that you are picking up, that you are writing about. But you need to be definitely sensitive about your target audience, and you can make a amazing career out of writing, whether you work in bigger offices or whether you start your own business and entrepreneurship, just like Vikas has done. So I think this has given a lot of confidence to me and to all the students who aspire to be writers. And thank you so much, Vikas. Thank you so much for joining us today
Vani, just I
and
want to
sharing
add
your
one more thing.
experience.
Vani, I just want to add one more thing for benefit of students. Many of you who would be applying for higher education once you complete your degree course, when you write to a university, whether it is in India or abroad, what you write, your purpose of joining that particular institute for the course that you want to follow, which will draw them to understand, whether they want to, because the universities get so many applications, thousands of applications. And what will stand out is how you've expressed your thoughts. It should be original, should be your thoughts, and people will pick up those thoughts, and that will give you that avenue to, it'll open a window for you to join that university. So, writing skills are very important. It is not just for getting it published in a journal or online media. It will help you seek better placement opportunities or seeking higher admission also. So I think with this thought, we'll end the session. Thank you everyone for joining, and have a great day and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.